So I would have been 18 or 19 years old, something like that. I was playing under 20 Division 1 basketball here in Adelaide. It was a Friday night. We had a great win, and the boys in the team, all of us decided that we were going to go out. And we decided to go to this club that was kind of like frequented by a lot of the basketball athletes, you know, around the place. I think it was owned by one of the basketball players or something like that. There was like a tie-in to the basketball association in the city. So we went out, and you know, it would have been like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Had a couple of drinks, and we were walking out of this club, walking down the stairs. You know, our plans were to go across the road to the casino, and one of the fellas, one of my teammates, just happened to just accidentally, you know, shoulder one of the guys that was kind of walking up the stairs. Now the fella that was walking up the stairs was kind of like a shorter fella. It was packed out, lots of people around, and a bit of a clash of shoulders. And then the guy got really upset really quickly. I just happened to be behind my friend that kind of made contact with him. And this guy just ignited immediately, started yelling. At the time, I didn't realize what was going on. There was no, like, what I saw didn't warrant the reaction. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a shock. He started screaming, saying, "Oh, you want some of this? You want to do this right now?" And he just grabs his jacket and pulls his jacket kind of to the side, and there was like this big knife. It looked like a machete to me. And obviously, when I saw that, I realized that, you know, the potential for some real bad things was very likely here. So I grabbed my mate, and by the time the rest of my teammates were kind of coming out, and my mate was upset. He, you know, was the type, like, you know, strong guy. He was kind of the, you know, the enforcer, let's say, of the team. He was very strong, very physically fit, big guy, like, you know, 6'3", 6'4". And the fella that was getting angry, he was part of like a bunch of these fellas. There was maybe like 5 or 6 of these guys, Middle Eastern type of description. He got so upset. To this day, I don't understand why he was so upset. Anyway, we somehow kind of pulled my mate, you know, away from the situation. They kind of moved away the way, and we made our way across the street into the casino, and that was it. You know, occasionally I think about this, and I think about, you know, all the stories that people come in with to ED, being stabbed, being smashed, being all sorts of things, you know, bikies, altercations, fights. And I think to myself how easily, you know, somebody can get caught up in a situation, especially when there's alcohol on board. There's, you know, seems like there's trouble just around the corner. You know, I grew up playing basketball, like, you know, 2-3 times a week, training sessions. I would have, you know, games once a week. So basically 4 days a week. This is just for the club. I was busy. I was busy with, you know, playing basketball. But, you know, for the generation that came out of Yugoslavia, I came to Australia when I was 10 years old. A lot of the kids that came out from parents being in the war and whatnot, there was a lot of, you know, mingling with the wrong crowds. I could have easily, you know, I still think if I didn't get involved in some sort of, you know, organized sport, I would have got amongst all the other trouble. There was a lot of guys that, you know, that were part of that whole, you know, refugees that came out, and they seemingly, you know, a lot of them got into the wrong crowds and whatever. But basketball for me was the separator for me. Like, you know, I just didn't get involved in that. I didn't have time. And I think, looking back at this, man, I think my parents did a great job. Like, they never, you know, gave me trouble about playing basketball. They never, you know, cut costs of fees, or, you know, going to trips to interstate to play basketball, anything like that. It could have easily just ended up me, you know, on Friday nights going out, chilling out with some of these guys and getting in the wrong crowds. But, you know, I'm thinking about the fella, you know, the fella that had the knife. I'm thinking to myself, man, like, you know, what brings somebody to a situation where you're bringing a knife of that size, you know, to a club? You know, like, why would you do that? You know, I don't understand. Like, you know, if he had a crowd that was a bit different, I don't think he would have been in a situation like that where he needs to, you know, carry a freaking weapon like that, you know, to the club, like, you know. And I know, you know, in the grand scheme of things, there are much more dangerous places in the world, and, you know, people get into all sorts of troubles. But for me, you know, up until that point, I never saw anybody, you know, go to a club with a freaking knife like that. So I think, you know, for a lot of guys that are growing up, it's very easily a situation where you get caught up in the wrong crowd. And I think what we do in the gym and we do with sports in general is a lifesaver. You know, if you get really serious about doing weights, if you get serious about doing a sport, not only is it good for the physical side of your development, but it also has a social implication there as well, because you're not going to be in the crowds, some of these crowds, you know. And you know, I think to myself, you know, with my kids, I'm going to be very a big proponent of playing sports, you know, for both my son and my daughter. Like, you know, who cares if you make it professionally or not? It's about staying away from trouble, really, you know. And now, with all the trouble that's in the world, man, like, you know, I'd be very, very disappointed if I was the father of that kid, you know, 20 or 21, you know, carrying a freaking knife to a club, you know. Like, what, you know, what goodness can come out of that if you're prepared to do that. And I know there's been a lot of stories out there. Like, I remember this one time in ED, man, I was very, you know, new to the whole ED. I was a rookie nurse, man. I didn't know anything, but I vividly remember this one guy rocking up. He was tatted from head to toe, you know, you know, clearly in the wrong crowds. You know, the guy was maybe like 40s or something like that. And there was an altercation, you know, one Saturday night, and somebody probably, you know, he was connected with the wrong crowd, like I said. But somebody took a blade and basically cut his face, basically from jaw to jaw, all around. And the skin of his forehead was leaning over, was peeling over. It's almost as though somebody tried to, like, deface him. Bloody scenes. Never seen anything like that, you know, up until that moment. The cops came in later on, you know, and they wanted a statement from him, and he just basically shoot him off and said, "Nah, man, nothing to be seen here." In the culture that we live in, you know, I'm somebody that, you know, my favorite genre of music is hip hop, you know, rap music. I grew up on that. Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, you know, these kind of guys. Like, you listen to some of these songs, you listen to what they're saying. I don't know, man. Like, I find myself sometimes, basically, I can't listen to this music with my kids around, because what these guys are talking about is, you know, treating chicks like tools, money, cars, mansions, power, gangs, killings. That's what's being discussed in these songs. And when you think about that, like, it's obviously not a shock to think that somebody going to a club at 20 years old with a freaking machete in his jacket makes perfect sense. Because, like, if you listen to the music, if you listen to some of the social media, or like, you know, what's being put out there, that's cool, man. I'm a gangster, man. I'm a gangster. Now, when I was 20, 18 years old, I thought that was cool as well. But really, what a gangster is you need to be prepared to be a murderer, right? Is that what a gangster is? A murderer. I don't want to kill nobody. I don't care if you're black or blue or brown or yellow, or you got, you know, blue pants, I've got red pants, or whatever. I'm not prepared to kill anybody. And I don't know if youngsters, Ivan, when he was 18, 19, 20, I don't think I realized that that's actually what they're talking about, like killing people. I want to be a gangster. Now, you might think still that you want to be a gangster, but when you have kids and you have a wife and you have people that you care for, the situation is not all that simple. Yeah, no worries, you're not scared to die. That's cool. But are you scared if one of your kids die? don't know, man. This is what I was talking about in yesterday's video. Like when you're let's say immature, when you're gullible, all these things were cool to me. They were fun. You know, listening to Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, listening to Tupac, Biggie, you know, the wars, this, that. I'll kill all you, you know, Hail Mary, Tupac song. I'm like, yeah, that's sick. My Lord. The violence. And I feel like an old man now, because I'm listening to these words now and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's talking about like killing everyone. And it's all well and good if we're talking about movies and whatever, blah, 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 but do you actually think that somebody out there is taking this to heart and he's taking a machete to the club? He's going to go stab someone. If somebody looks him the wrong way, there's alcohol involved, there's girls involved, somebody's pissed off about these types of things. All of a sudden the guy's got a freaking sword out and he's waving this thing around like it's medieval total war. Holy shit, man. Now when you get confronted by something like that, you're like, God damn, man. This guy's lost his mind. But him and I probably listen to the same songs, except I'm not thinking about killing anybody. But he really wants to be a gangster. He really wants to be Tupac. He really wants to be Biggie. And I don't even know whether these guys actually were gangsters. Maybe the guys of today are definitely not gangsters, because they seem to be like growing up in, you know, the suburbs, and they got degrees and whatever. But the old school guys probably were gangsters, like, you know, Tupac and Biggie and whatever. But now guys are rapping in these songs. They got no idea where the hood is. They listen to the music, you know, they listen to the movies and whatever, then they ride their perceptions of what the hood is. But then there's these kids, they're growing up and they're like, yeah, I want to be a gangster, I want to get a tattoo, you know, of a teardrop. I don't even know, like, if people have even thought about that what this really is about murdering other people because they're not in your gang, because that's your block, because that's your corner where you're selling the drugs. So think about what this music represents. It represents killing people, selling drugs to kids and whoever else has money. You know, the other day, man, I watched a video. I forget what the guy's name is, but I watched a video, a very, very big channel, where he's basically pranking people. He goes to the hood and he like walks up to gangsters basically on the street, like these random guys, and he's like, hey man, you want to get sliced? You know, he says stuff like this. And the guys are like, what do you mean you get sliced? He's referring to like, you want a slice of pizza? Like, it's just a trick. And these guys are like, what do you mean you get sliced? Like, you know, they're getting threatened. So they pull out these freaking knives and Uzis and guns and whatever, all this stuff. And I watched the whole 18 video, like it's like a compilation. And I kept thinking to myself, holy shit, how many people out there in a split second are ready to kill? Like straight out, like get the gun out. What do you mean get sliced? You want to die? Man, that for me, it was funny initially, but then I started kind of thinking about it deeper. My Lord, man, how poor of a society is that when these people are walking on the streets and just like that, they're ready to go all out. It's hard for me now, and I think being a father has really ingrained this into me. It's hard for me now to like sit there and listen to these songs and holy shit, these guys are talking about killing. And I've come from Yugoslavia, man. My parents brought me here from real war. They try to prevent me from getting amongst all this stuff. And here I am talking, you know, listening to Tupac, trying to, you know, war against the East Coast. Biggie's talking about killing everyone in the West Coast. It's all well and good until somebody brings a machete to a club. Then it's like, whoa, man, this guy might be actually a gangster. This guy flat out might be a freaking gangster, and he doesn't give a shit if he goes to jail. And by the look of this guy, he was fairly young, man. I don't know, like between 20 and 25. And he had a whole bunch of other dudes with him, you know, somewhere from the Middle East. And you know what Middle East is going through. You know, Yugoslavia has had trouble in the 90s. Middle East has had trouble freaking for 100 years. So their parents, their parents' parents, their parents' parents, they're all going through absolute shit their whole lives. As far back as they can think, there's been trouble in their family. And so they grow up with this aggression. They grow up with this animosity to these other groups of people, and they have this pulled to become gangsters and mingle with dangerous characters. I don't know, man. This is where I feel like sports, whether it be football, basketball, weightlifting, something that occupies the young male, females as well, but mostly male, because we are freaking aggressive. Testosterone is through the roof. That guy was peaking. You know, especially athletes, man. A lot of these guys that have high testosterone are probably athletes. You know, so they are like booming with their hormones. They go out to a club, they're fully physically fit, they're 20 years old, and somebody says something to them, bang, it's on. So the best situation for these people is not to put themselves in these situations. I don't know, man. I think previous generations were a lot busier than we are. Now we have a lot of time to go to these clubs. We have a lot of time to kill. So we do this stupid stuff. I don't know, man. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I freaking feel like an old man. You know, I don't know, when you like, life is beautiful when you. It's beautiful when you look at it. When you look at it through like a lens of a child, you know, it's beautiful. Because it's innocent, and you think everything is a game, you think everything is all good, and then you kind of understand, man, there's a lot of darkness behind this music industry. They represent bad things, and then I sit back and I'm like complaining about the social media, complaining about all the fakeness of that, complaining about everything, but there's actually deep rooted issues with our society, you know, much deeper problems, which is sad, but it is what it is. And I don't know how many times, like every weekend that I end up doing a shift in ED weekend, there's always some sort of fight. Somebody's fought somebody, alcohol, fuel, this, that, the other. I don't know, man. Like, sure, like even I was so busy with basketball, I had a lot of time occupied by sports. I always had this like appreciation that, I don't know, maybe I didn't connect the dots early enough, but when you come from a war-torn country and you hear the stories of your relatives dying and whatnot, you'd think that you'd be more aware of what's actually going on. You know, what it means to carry a gun or a knife and whatnot. But then a lot of these guys from war-torn countries, they come to countries like this and they're getting involved in these gangs and whatever, and it's sad. And it's sad for me because I grew up loving this music, but now I find it so hard to listen to, man. Like, how do you justify violence? Like yesterday's video I talked about, I wanted to kill that guy. I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill him, but I didn't think about killing. You know what I mean? Like, it's to kill somebody, it's, come on, man. What are we talking about, man? I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling angry. This is where, like, you know, you say words that you don't really mean. Do you actually know what you said when you said you wanted to kill someone? You don't want to kill somebody. I don't want to kill anybody, man. But there's people out there that put themselves in a situation where they're carrying a blade to a club, and you're like, what are we doing here, guys, man? What are we doing? I don't know what that guy is. That guy's probably in jail by now. You know, an innocent shoulder clash almost ended up in manslaughter or murder or whatever it is. Jesus Christ, man. And I was busy with basketball, and I was still exposed to that. Imagine if I wasn't all about basketball, all about trying to get better, you know, trying to make it professionally. How many of those situations I would have been exposed to if I was just, you know, going out every day after school, go out to the city, go out, hang out, whatever. Anyway, guys, this story popped into my head. For some reason today, I was kind of expanding on the thoughts of yesterday. You know, thinking about, you know, the altercation at work that I had those years ago. And then I kind of expanded upon it, and I thought about the story that I got involved with, you know. It's sad. To me, all of that is very sad, but that's why I think it's so important that us young men get involved with some sort of physical exertion activity. Team sports, barbell sports, something. You need to do something. I don't understand guys that don't do anything. They just sit at the computer, play video games all day. Like, how do you cope? Where do you put that anger out? Of course you're going to have anxiety, depression, and mental health issues if all of this energy is bottled up. I just, you know, these guys then go out, you know, somebody takes their girl or whatever, there's another guy that's better than them or whatever the thoughts are. Oh, I'll just stab the guy. I'll show him who the man is. No, man. No. You have to do something physically so you are mellow when you get confronted in these situations. And I think to myself, you know, from yesterday's video talking about that guy at work, if I wasn't training at that time, if I wasn't, you know, full of DOMs from the 2 days before I did squats or whatever I did, I would have even had even more energy. Maybe I would have even lashed out physically. It would have spilled over. But because I had some sort of physical expenditure the few days before that, I kind of felt all right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's an absolute must that we get amongst it physically and do something, because if you don't, man, I don't know what the other alternative is. Smoke weed all day, every day. Is that an option? I think it's a must, and that's what I'm going to do with my family as well, with my kids. I'm going to get them involved in sports. I don't care what it is, man. Sports. Have them thinking about that, how to improve, how to climb the ranks, how to climb those divisions, and hopefully a lot of those evil, negative thoughts don't even enter their minds. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.